In tonight's webinar, we'll be exploring the benefits of engaging in filmmaking with pupils, the filmmaking process and what it entails, the Fiche Film Project and the annual awards, and teacher supports that have been created by Fiche and the PDST to aid teachers in creating short films. Let's firstly explore what exactly the Fiche Film Project is about. Fiche is a joint collaboration between the PDST and IADT and promotes the use of filmmaking in the classroom to support and enhance learning right across the curriculum. This project is 21 years old this year and continues to grow from strength to strength. Since its inception, we've estimated that in excess of 30,000 pupils and their teachers have created short films each year and entered these into our annual Fiche Film Awards competition, which started 17 years ago once the project became mainstreamed. The annual competition celebrates the filmmaking work of pupils and their teachers, both live action and animation based, in awarding prizes across a wide range of categories each year. Primary schools are invited to create a short film of no more than 5 minutes in duration, which excludes the credits, and then submit their entry to us via an online form on our website, fichefilmproject.ie. Short films can be submitted in a format that suits the teacher, as we accept file transfers, YouTube or Vimeo links, and DVDs by post. It's important that the entries do not contain copyrighted materials, and so we ask that teachers use resources like unsplash.com, pexels.com, photosforclass.com and pixabay.com to source copyright-free images, and sites like bensound.com or access the YouTube audio library to source copyright-free music and sound effects. We'll post links to these resources in the chat. Online entries remain open up until 5 p.m. on the last Friday in June each year, so you still have lots of time to get involved in this year's project. You'll find more information on the website if needed regarding entering the competition. We're now going to look at an example of what one school, St. Joseph's National School in Rathmullen, produced for their award-winning Fiche Film Competition entry. As you're watching this short piece, you'll see many links to the primary curriculum.
You've all heard about Hansel and Gretel, how they were lost in the forest and found my house and I tried to eat them. Well, it's just not true. For one thing, I'm a vegetarian. So I was sitting at home minding my own business, just myself and my wee canary, when I hear a scratching at the walls. Well, I thought I had mice. I got up to check, looked out the window, and what do you think I saw? Two greedy, grubby little children eating me out of house and home. Well, I flung open the door to give them a piece of my mind, when the boy falls in and crashes straight into my canary's cage. The girl started screaming. Then the boy started screaming. Then I started screaming. All the animals scattered. The boy and girl ran away. It was just me and the canary left. I look at the TV, and there on the news, I see it for the first time. I hear it for the first time. And I've seen and heard nothing but this news all my life. Hansel and Gretel escape from Wicked Witch. It's not true. I'll tell you what's wicked. The witch hunt.
Having seen the product, let's now focus attention on the process. So why is engaging in filmmaking an effective way to explore the Irish primary curriculum with pupils? Well, as you can see on screen here, Ussel, Robin and MacNeil outline that digital storytelling supports pupil understanding of subject area knowledge in overall academic performance, as well as writing, technical, presentation and research skills. Pupils' higher order thinking, social language, reflection, and artistic skills are also positively affected when their teachers use digital storytelling in the classroom. Furthermore, this approach to language learning also aligns perfectly with the concept of developing communication within the primary language curriculum. On screen here, we can see how this progressive curriculum highlights that communication can take many forms, including digital texts. This curriculum document goes on to define the concept of text as encompassing all products of language use, including oral, gesture, sign, written, braille, visual, tactile, electronic, and digital. And so, given this expanded view of text within the primary language curriculum, to now include digital aspects that can be effectively supported through the use of filmmaking, it's easy to see how pupils can develop their skills in this regard when engaged in making short live-action films or animations on areas relating to the curriculum, or just to express themselves creatively through the use of this medium of communication. Importantly, FISH is also referenced in key governmental policies, such as the Department of Education's Digital Strategy for Schools, as an exemplar for the creative use of digital technology in education. Engaging with filmmaking in the classroom also aids teachers in supporting the development of many important skills. Firstly, it allows for an integrated approach in developing literacy right across the curriculum, infusing creativity into subject-specific learning. It enables discovery-based learning, whereby pupils are immersed in the process and access new levels of learning. It encompasses active and problem-based learning. The filmmaking process utilises self and peer assessment as pupils communicate throughout the project to see if they're happy with their progress and discuss what perhaps needs to be done in order to improve their piece further. As communication is key here, pupils are also developing social skills and gaining experience in working collaboratively. And of course, using filmmaking as an approach to learning in the classroom enhances creativity and the holistic experience of education promoted by the broad and balanced primary school curriculum. Let's now move on to investigate the 5 elements of storytelling that every good short film should have. Firstly, pupils decide upon what characters will be in their short film and flesh out the personalities of these important players. Secondly, the setting needs to be considered. Where is the action taking place, or indeed when? The plot is of course the third vital element. If the pupils are basing their short film on real-life events, they'll need to engage in some research beforehand to ensure accuracy. Or will they be constructing their own creative tale? Whatever the approach taken to the plot, it will need to have some sort of conflict to generate interest for the audience, some obstacle that the characters will need to overcome. And the final element of storytelling is, of course, the resolution. This explores how your characters overcame the obstacle in resolving the conflict. It's also essential to plan before filming so that your piece has a clear direction. As we will see, all of the stages in the storytelling process have clear links to curricular and digital learning. And for this reason, some schools have chosen to note their filmmaking work in their digital learning plan also. Here, a simple action plan can be created to outline this creative approach to digital learning being undertaken for the classes involved. Let's now have a look at the 6 steps involved in the filmmaking process. Step 1 is coming up with the idea. There are many possibilities when coming up with the topic around which to base your short film. Here, for example, The idea may spring from a famous historical figure, a local folk tale, a biographical piece about a famous author or poet, or perhaps the pupils could create their own unique story. Step 2. Writing the script. Once the idea for the story has been settled upon, the pupils then begin to create the script to bring their characters to life through dialogue. This step links strongly with the previous slide where we explored the elements of a good story. With clear links to the primary language curriculum, pupils are immersed in the writing process throughout this stage and typically would address many of the learning outcomes from the writing, reading and oral language strands when creating their scripts. A tip here is to keep the idea simple and the script short. Generally, 1 page of script will translate into 1 minute on screen, and so we would recommend keeping your scripts to a max of 5 pages. The next step in the process is storyboarding. Storyboards are essentially visual plans which outline scene by scene what the story will look like when being recorded. It's important to spend time on this planning task so that everyone is clear what the piece will look like on screen before shooting begins. A free storyboard template can be downloaded from the Teacher Resources section of fichefilmproject.ie. Moving on to step 4 then, preparing to film. At this stage in the process, pupils are gathering and creating props and costumes to use in their short film. Their individual and collective creativity really comes to the fore here as pupils become invested in bringing their character to life through the use of appropriate attire and carefully constructed or sourced props. Once they are ready to film, they move on to step 5, shooting footage. The approach undertaken to shoot your film, whether you're using a tablet device or a camera or a camcorder, will ultimately depend on the equipment that is available to you in your school. Regardless of what you're using to shoot the footage, here are some tips to bear in mind. Firstly, use a tripod if possible to steady the device that's capturing the footage. Draw a circle with chalk around the tripod or perhaps use some length of string and only allow the pupil who is recording the scene inside this space. This will decrease the likelihood of the tripod getting accidental knocks during shooting, which can result in shaky footage. Stay away from windy locations outdoors, as this will adversely affect the sound quality. If you're shooting indoors then, avoid recording near or in front of windows, as external light can fluctuate owing to changes in the weather outside, and this will affect continuity. It's a good idea to take a rehearsal test shot of each scene and play it back to check for sound quality, lighting, framing, and other elements before shooting the scene properly. Taking a few shots of each scene is also a good idea so that the best version can be selected for inclusion in the final short film. Using a basic green background, which could be made of poster paper or fabric, and a simple green screening app such as Doing Green Screen or Chromavid allows you to transport pupils anywhere you like within the world and of course beyond. So don't let limited location availability hold you or the pupils back creatively. Once you have your footage captured, you're ready then to move on to editing. There are many easy to use apps and websites available to help you edit your images and your footage. Sound effects and backing tracks can also easily be added to enhance the story. Some options to explore in this regard include iMovie, WeVideo, Filmora Go, and VideoPod, amongst others. We're now going to look at another example of an award-winning fiche film created by Ardfert National School, which explores a local folktale. Again, many curriculum links are evident in this piece throughout.
Human beings, who are we? Why are we here? We are all born into this world. We breathe, grow, change, feel, love, hurt, hope, laugh, cry.
But some of us are luckier than others, where we live and die. If we are less lucky, does that make us less worthy, less deserving of respect and decency, no matter whether we are a friend or a stranger? The people in at first didn't think so.
Welcome, welcome, welcome. Welcome to the Gooseberry Fair. We're here again this year, bigger and better. Come and get the produce, the best in the world. Welcome.
Long, long ago, in the historic village of Artfirth, a gooseberry fair was held on the village green every year on July the 9th. People travelled from far and wide to attend the fair. Hucksters, jobbers, travelling merchants and local traders jostled for the best positions for their stalls on the green. The village lodging houses were always overflowing with guests and beggars, would set up temporary shelters on the fair green. Horses, sheep, chickens, pigs and cattle were sold alongside butter, fish, cakes, sweets, fruit and vegetables.
They will marry a tall, dark stranger with a few nice acres of land.
Roll up, roll up, roll up! Come and watch the best tricks in Kerry! There was always a carnival air about the village during the fair, with musicians playing, fortune tellers gazing, and magicians and card sharks plentiful.
How did you do that?
Well, it's magic, my dear. One year, a small, hardy man, roughly in his 60s, arrived in the village. He looked for a bed in all the village inns and alehouses, but was unable to get any accommodation. He met the village cobbler, who agreed to let him stay in his house for the night.
Excuse me, sir. I was wondering, is there any place I could stay tonight?
You could stay at my house. My son Karen will show you where to go, sir.
Thank you, sir.
He was welcomed by the family and given tea, kearney cake and a sack of hay to rest his head on for the night.
Mommy, Father said this man can stay in our house tonight. Of course, you're more than welcome.
Thank you, Mom.
Would you like a cup of tea and some corny cake?
I'd love some, thank you.
I'll give you the sack of hay for you to sleep on tonight.
Thank you.
Imagine the consternation the next morning when the family woke up and found the man dead.
Good morning, sir. Would you like a cup of tea? Sir? Husband, come quick! What's wrong? The stranger isn't waking up.
Stranger! Anna Mandil, Tasha Maru.
Nobody had any idea who the man was or where he had come from. The doctor could not do anything and couldn't give any cause for the man's death. The priest came and said a few prayers over the corpse. The guard couldn't find anything suspicious about the death. The body was kept in the house for 2 days, but no one came looking for him.
Paddy, will you give us an old song?
On Raglan Road, on an autumn day, he saw her first and knew that her dark hair would leave a snare that I might one day rue. I saw the danger and I passed along the enchanted way, and I said, let grief be a fallen leaf at the dawning of the day.
Well done, Paddy.
His body was brought down to the cathedral and given a decent burial in the finest tomb. To this day, nobody knows who the man was or where he had come from. It remains a mystery to this day.
The stranger's identity remains a mystery, but the kindness and respect he received in life and death is no mystery. It is the only way to treat one another. Caring, sharing, moving forwards together.
We're now going to hear from two experts in the field of filmmaking and animation. The first of our experts is Vanessa Gildea. Vanessa is a filmmaker and lecturer in the National Film School and is going to provide us with an input regarding writing our own short films.
Hi, my name is Vanessa Gildea and I'm a filmmaker and lecturer at the National Film School, IADT Dunleary. So today I'm going to talk to you about some tips for short filmmaking, but particular focus on script writing. So script writing being the basis for all fiction, drama filmmaking. And hopefully I will have some tips that will help you as you embark on making a short film. I actually have prepared a PowerPoint for you, so I will share my screen with you. This PowerPoint can be shared with you after the talk. So hopefully you're seeing tips for writing short films with Vanessa Gildea. Particular focus today on fiction, drama or live action. So we'll call it fiction filmmaking, but it's also known as drama or live action as opposed to non-fiction or documentary making. So let's have a look at some tips. So storytelling is the basis for all filmmaking, whether it's fiction or non-fiction, but all good stories have a beginning, a middle, and an end. When you start on this journey of writing or working as a group in writing a short film, start by looking at how to mimic the way in which we naturally tell stories. You know the difference innately between someone telling a really good story well and telling it badly. And it's usually because there isn't a defined beginning, middle, and end. Where do you start with fiction screenwriting? Keep it simple. One idea, one spark, one theme, or one character or person. You can start in any of those places. You can start with the character first. You can start with the situation first, the bank robbery or the bank robber. But start in one of those places and develop the drama around that. Avoid cliche. What is it that you or your group want to say, your own unique voice? It's the only thing that you have that makes you different from any other school or any other group is what's unique in your area, in your own interests, in your own, move for social change, whatever the issue or story is that you want to tell, make sure it's unique to you guys. Workshop your ideas. What does this mean? I mean, it means sitting around in a group and talking about the ideas, what you like, what you don't like, what's unique, what's different, what's new. Of course, that's all online now and it can still be all done over Zoom. Start with one main character, but have a maximum of 2 to 3 characters in your short script. The simplicity of this will make it easier to develop the story. Generally, one character and an antagonist, a protagonist and an antagonist, as we call them, a character and someone is a friend or a foe to bounce dialogue or ideas off or action. 2 locations minimum, maybe one exterior, one interior, one outside or one inside, or one location entirely. This isn't a hard and fast rule, but it will help. The simpler your concept is, the easier it will be to realize. I always say simplicity of concept allows for complexity of creativity. One simple idea and then be as complex in the visual and sound, creative and storytelling as you'd like. In script writing terms, you have to sit down and think about who is your main character, the MC. Show us their normal life, just a snippet. It could be the first 10 seconds of your film, the first 30 seconds. What is it that this character wants or needs? How is their normal life interrupted? I always think about somebody's just sitting on a bus or a Lewis and something happens. Someone gets on the Lewis with a gun, with a knife, a drama, a moment. What is the drama of your story? What is the catalyst or the force or the change in situation that forces your character to act? Who or what is stopping them getting what they want? They want something, somebody or someone, an organization or a person or situation is stopping them getting what they want. What is the main character willing to do to get what they want? Often show 3 attempts. Cycles of 3 are really good in short films. And as you watch more and more short films, you'll see that often there is 3 attempts for somebody to get something that they want. And then figure out in the end, do they get what they want, what they need, both, or neither? And if they get neither, unfortunately, it's a tragedy. But if they get what they want or what they need, it's often a happy ending. General tips. So show, don't tell. I'm sure you've heard this before, but telling is for prose and for novel writing. But I always give an example of an argument. So somebody is upstairs in a room and there's an argument taking place downstairs. It could be verbal, could be violent, could be a mixture of both. And 2 ways of looking at this. You can show us the actual argument, and we don't hear what's being said. We can use music or sound effects over that, or we can see the face of the person listening and the room that they're in, and we can hear the argument and not see it. Either way, we know the codes of this in terms of visual and cinema and filmmaking. So you don't always have to show us everything and you don't have to hear everything, but it has to be one or the other. Don't write anything we can't see or hear. Don't write emotions or past histories or things that have gone on before, or, you know, Mary always does this every week. We can't see it, so don't put it in your script. It can be part of your backstory, but it can't be part of your script. Don't write camera directions or transitions in your script. The camera pans or crash zooms or moves, or you'll figure out all the camera later. That's the filmmaking production part. Don't describe a character's traits. Don't show us the character in action. If you want to say that Mary is mean, show us her being mean. If you want to show that she's kind, show us her doing something like being kind to an animal or kind to a child or a homeless person, somebody vulnerable, or helping someone across the road. Be inventive and subtle about how you do that, but don't write what they are, show us what they are. Don't write what's going on inside a character's mind. Don't say that Mary is sad. Show us Mary is sad. Show us her lying on a bed, curled up in a fetal position, crying, or whatever the emotion is that you're trying to express. But film is a visual medium, and make sure that you show us everything and don't tell us. Because when you come to make the film, it will be impossible to express that. Don't write a description of how an actor is to deliver a line. Let that be part of your filmmaking process. Brevity and clarity. Keep it short, keep it clear. Keep your story short and clear in terms of description of action. Keep your dialogue short and clear. It will have much more depth and less like a radio play and more like a film. Be aware of gender balance and diversity in your film. Write good characters for women. Write that the doctor is a woman, and write in actors of a color and different backgrounds. And what would happen if you flip things around? Often we tend to write a lot of our main characters or heroes of films as men. If you flipped your main character to a woman, what would change? Usually nothing, other than you've just created a really well-rounded female character. Ask yourself in the writing process, can you identify in your script the themes? What is behind your film? What is your film saying? And the emotional heart. Even the greatest comedies can have such intense and important emotional heart. Ask yourself those questions in group situations. Ask yourselves, can you write down lists and can you identify them? And if you can't, then you need to look back at your story. Also ask yourself, is your script boring? Make sure it's exciting and interesting, unique, fresh. Can you describe your script or story in one clear sentence? This is really important. If you can't, you've probably gone too complex with the story. Keep it back, strip it back, keep it simple. Is it cliched? Is it the same as some things you've seen before? Try and invent and create new, fresh ways of storytelling. This is hard, but can be done through workshopping and looking at lots of short films as well. What is new, urgent, or important about your film? What is it saying to the world? It's very important to be saying something, even if it is just to make us laugh or to parody something. But what is important or urgent to you? Because if it is important and fresh to you, it will be to the audience. Does your script make us laugh, cry, or does it make us think? Does it provoke us? Does it have heart, truth, and integrity? Ask yourselves these questions in groups, and the answers will be illuminating. I'd like to focus on my short film, The White Dress. It's a 3-minute short film. You can see the link there in the PowerPoint. I show it because it is, well, it's on the curriculum for schools, but also, I mean, I didn't set out for that to happen, but it is simple. It's one clear idea. It's based on a true story. That's where the inspiration came. I heard the story told to me. It is a girl makes her Holy Communion by herself. I can describe my film in one short shrift sentence. It's really important to be able to do that. But then if I look and interrogate the themes, it came out of Celtic Tiger Ireland, the poverty-rich divide. I wanted to make a commentary about poverty without saying it or telling it straight up, the neglect that can take place in our society, the inner strength of this girl and of people who overcome their situations. And above all, it was a social commentary for me on what I was seeing taking place in my country. It has no dialogue. It is, I suppose, an example of showing and not telling. I don't have anybody tell anybody anything in the film. I show her home life. I show what she goes through, what she has to do. What does she want? She wants to make her communion. What is she willing to do to get that? She's willing to steal ribbons, run out of home, and she's willing to turn up at the church on her own. And it is an example of how in 2 and even 3 minutes, you can tell a larger epic story. Once you find your character in your story, doing it simply will often make it a more powerful piece. Finally, be brave with your subject matter. Give comedy a go. Comedy is really hard, but boy, do we need to laugh. Give it a go, you know. And again, that will take some time in terms of workshopping and delivery and writing, but it is hard, but we welcome comedy, particularly at this time. Pick an idea and imagine you're telling the story to your friends. Don't even imagine it, do it. Tell the story of your film to someone else or show them your script. Write it in an outline, map the idea from A to Z, one page. This happens, then this happens. The normal world, writing what the character wants, how you're going to express that, who's stopping them getting it, how you're going to tell that part of the story. Then the 3 attempts to get something, to get what they want. The failures of those, and then in the end, how does it come about that they get what they want, what they need, or neither? And of course, we don't always have to have a happy ending. That's completely up to you as the storyteller. Get it all out on paper and then rewrite. Get it all out on paper and then strip back. First drafts are always going to be too long, have too much dialogue, too much description, often be lend towards the cliche, and then you refine it as a group, workshop it, strip away anything you don't need that doesn't further your story. Ask for someone to read it, someone like me, someone that you know, even somebody who's not a filmmaker. Get them to read it or read it to them, get their response, what they liked, what they didn't like, what they thought was cliched, what they thought was good about it. You don't have to take on board everyone's feedback, but it can help you figure out if it's working or not. And most of all, have fun. This is a creative medium. You know, the first films we make are often not the best, but you'll learn each time you write a script, each time you make a film together, you'll learn, and just try, fail, or succeed, try again. You know, that Beckett quote, fail better, keep trying, and the skills and the storytelling will all come to you if you have the passion and the desire to do it. Best of luck. Have fun.
Next, we're going to hear from Anne Upton. Anne is an animator and lecturer in the National Film School and is going to talk to us about the animation process.
Hi, my name is Anne Upton. I'm an animator and lecturer at IADT Dún Laoghaire, and my specialisation is stop motion animation. I work a lot using paper cutouts, so I make all of my models, my sets and everything out of paper and card, and then animated frame by frame under camera. I use it for both creative and corporate work. It gives a really unique style. It can be quite bold and quite engaging. So I'm going to give you a few tips on incorporating this kind of animation in the classroom. The first piece of advice that I would always give is to keep it very simple. It can be very tempting to write a feature-length script and have all of these ambitious ideas, but animation is a very time-consuming medium, so it's really in your interest to keep it to a nice, simple, short story that's achievable in a limited amount of time. It's a great idea to storyboard it in advance. You can get some great storyboarding templates online. And I'd really limit yourself to maybe 5 or 6 scenes and maybe 2 characters if possible. I always try to use really strong, simple shape-based design when I create cutout animation. It just has so much more impact on screen, and I like to avoid any unnecessary detail. I use a very limited number of background elements as well. Anything that I do include in the frame, I try to use them to frame the action as best I can. So I use them to create an empty space where I want the audience to look, where some action is about to happen. It's really important to use nice, bright, high contrast colors when you're working like this, as opposed to making everything out of white paper. Nothing will stand out on the screen. So if you make everything from a nice assorted colored card, everything will already stand out nicely from each other. Along with your card, you'll also probably need like your scissors to cut out all your characters and your elements. Blue tack will be really important to fix things down that you don't want to move. You can also get quite creative about the materials that you use here. Aside from colored card, you know, you can include things like photographic elements and textiles. Photographic elements work particularly well for things like animated self-portraits or history projects. If you wanted to do a biography, this kind of material can work really, really well with cutouts. When you're setting up your shoot, one of the most important parts for stop motion animating is to keep your device super, super still. So if you're working on an iPad, it won't work if you're holding it for every photograph that you take. You're going to need some way of mounting it to keep it in the same position all of the time. Little tripods can work great for this, or little arms, stands, things like that, can work really, really well. Likewise, you can place your iPad on the edge of a table with just the camera hanging over the edge and place your scene on the floor. That will work great as well. When you're framing your shot, I would suggest using a nice big piece of colored card for your background, maybe like A3 size or larger. And I would always try and make it so that we can't see anything else around the card. So we can't see the floor if you're shooting on the floor, for example. So always try to fit that card to the right size of the frame, and then start to add your individual elements to create a scene on that background. You'll likely be using the Stop Motion Studio app, which is a really, really great resource. And they have plenty of information on their own website about accessing all of the different settings available. I'm only going to go through one specific setting with you, which is the absolute most important, and that's the frame rate. So for stop motion animation, we always work at 12 frames per second. So that means there's 12 photographs for every 1 second of footage. And they have some resources on that website, like I said, to show you where to access this. So just under your project settings, you'll change the timer to 12. It's really important that you keep it here and you don't cheat and make it fewer frames per second, because the human eye needs 12 frames for us to believe that something is really moving. So that's a really important setting. The app is capable of an awful lot more, but really that's kind of the main one that I would stress. Once you start animating, it's really important that you take your time. It's a really long process making a piece of work like this, so it requires a lot of patience. Every little movement that you see is very, very carefully placed. A lot of time goes into every single frame, even though it may seem like only a couple of seconds when it plays back. It could have taken that animator hours, you know, on a film production to create that movement. And when all of those frames then are cut together, it turns into a scene, cut with the next scene, turns into a little film. And even the shortest little stories can be really engaging in a medium like this. There are plenty of resources available to get you started on the Fiche website, from concept creation to execution.
Anne has mentioned some Fiche resources in her input, and we're going to explore those in a little more depth now. On our website, fichefilmproject.ie, teachers can find a host of resources to support them in making live action and animated short films. Simply select Teacher Resources in the website header shown here on screen. There you'll find access to 2 interactive lessons exploring both filmmaking and animation, over 100 examples of award-winning Fiche films created by Irish primary schools, 13 tutorial videos exploring various aspects relating to the filmmaking process, 2 PDST Technology in Education good practice videos which show how teachers used filmmaking within their own classroom context, and 3 teacher perspectives chronicling the filmmaking process. The PDST also have supports available for schools in this area. For example, teachers can complete a summer course to gain their EPV days in live action filmmaking or animation making. Schools can also apply for support in this area via pdst.ie/school support to get support from a digital technologies advisor who can work within small groups or whole staff contexts to step you through the process involved. And of course, teachers can also access the PDST Digital Technologies YouTube channel, where they'll find short instructional videos to support the use of digital storytelling in the classroom. The video editing videos in this playlist are popular also. Before answering any questions that have come in, we're now going to conclude by drawing together all of the aspects we've heard about in tonight's webinar to see how one teacher engaged effectively with Fiche and the filmmaking process in their classroom.
The Fiche Film Festival is an annual competition that is run nationally here in Ireland by PDST Technology in Education and IADT, and we entered the Fiche Film Festival last year. It was our first year to enter with 2 animation films, and we attended the Helix last October, and we were delighted to be very successful and go home with 2 awards on the day.
So it was about the life cycle of the salmon, and basically it just goes from when the salmon's a baby to when it grows up.
6th class are currently working on a film which involves science and me. So it's basically all the science that they encounter throughout the day. There are a number of different stages involved in animation. Some of the early stages involve research, dividing your topic into a number of sections and dividing those sections between the class. Once you have your sections and your groups, each group must go away and research their topic. And once they've completed the research, then we can start the storyboarding and the scripting. And the storyboarding involves basically the different scenes, and each scene might have some different camera angles, some different dialogue. What is a particular person going to say? What different sound effects could we use? And the script, it would be the final step before we can start making the props, making the backdrops. Then we start shooting the animation film, which is quite a timely process because animation, it's slow, it's small movements, which has really taught the children how to, be very meticulous, and it's taught them some patience. And then the final steps is editing in iMovie, adding your sound and editing the different timelines, and then fine-tuning it, adding your music, adding your subtitles and your introduction. To make an animation, it involves using a number of different apps. One of the main two apps for capturing the animation is Stop Motion Studio Pro and iStop. We also use iMovie to edit the film, and then you can use a number of different apps to incorporate sound, and there's a number of free sound effect apps that you can also download, and there's also subtitle apps that you can download and add to your film and just give it that extra oomph. There's a lot of assessment involved in the project, in particular peer assessment and self-assessment, and also oral language. You know, you can really gauge what the children have learned, especially in the research part of the project, and also the finished piece. You know, they can see exactly what they've created, what they have learned. And I think it's a great platform to share their project, share their ideas. I attended an animation course which was ran by PSDT Technology and Education, IADT, and the Galway Film Centre. And the course taught me the fundamentals of making a film, an animation film, the steps involved, the different process, and we also got to work together and create some different animation films. So it was a very hands-on course, and I definitely recommend it. If a teacher was entering into the film festival, I would say it's not as daunting as it sounds. It's a step-by-step process, and once you have a topic and an idea, split that up into sections and divide it up between your class. And once they have that, the filmmaking begins, the process begins straight away. Fish have a number of tutorials on their website that will help you with the filmmaking process and will help you with some of the apps that we used in making the animation film. And also Google is actually very educational and very beneficial for just doing simple things like using iMovie and using the animation apps. One of the main benefits in the process of making an animation film is that it's so cross-curricular. One animation film touches on so many different subjects. It's also fantastic for children to develop their social skills. They're so comfortable in their environment within their group setting, and it just flows, their ideas flows and their creativity flows. Filmmaking here in the class is now thankfully second nature to the class. They're so familiar with collaborative work, group work, the steps involved in making a film. They know firsthand storyboarding, script writing, sound effects, you know, editing, iMovie. So they're very comfortable with the technology and they're very comfortable with filmmaking.
We'll now answer any questions that have come in during tonight's webinar. And if you have any you'd like to ask now, please feel free to add them using the Q&A feature at the bottom of your screen.